Welcome to Globewise Entertainment, your ultimate gateway into the world of classic cinema and timeless Hollywood treasures. Today, we're taking you back to a bold and imaginative era, the 1960s, when filmmakers dared to dream beyond the stars and redefine what science fiction could be. From eerie alien invasions to thought-provoking dystopias, these are the 16 greatest sci-fi movies of the 1960s that still hold up as incredible masterpieces even today. So, grab your popcorn, sit back, and let's journey through the galaxies of vintage sci-fi brilliance together. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into Hollywood's most fascinating stories. Which of these classic sci-fi gems is your favorite? Tell us in the comments below. We love hearing from true film fans like you. 1. Village of the Damned, 1960. The Children of Cold Perfection. Imagine an ordinary English village, quiet, peaceful, almost too perfect. Then one afternoon, time itself stops. Every man, woman, and child falls unconscious. Birds drop from the sky. Cars roll silently into ditches. Hours later, everyone awakens, confused, shaken, and soon, a chilling discovery follows. Every woman of childbearing age is suddenly pregnant. When the children are born, they all look eerily identical: platinum blonde hair, glowing eyes, and a calm, unnerving intelligence far beyond their years. They move together, think together, and when angered, their telepathic powers can make anyone obey, or worse. Village of the Damned isn't just another alien invasion story. It's a masterclass in psychological tension, showing how fear can spread not from monsters, but from those we once called our own. Directed by Wolf Rilla and based on John Wyndham's novel, The Midwich Cuckoos, the film was both haunting and thought-provoking, a reflection of 1960s paranoia, Cold War tension, and the unknown potential of human evolution. Even today, the movie's minimalist style, eerie performances, and social commentary make it feel timeless. It asks the question, what happens when humanity gives birth to something smarter and colder than itself? For sci-fi lovers, Village of the Damned remains one of the greatest examples of how atmosphere and ideas can terrify more than special effects ever could. A true 1960s gem that still sends chills down your spine, even 6 decades later. 2. Marooned, 1969. The forgotten space survival epic that predicted reality. Before Apollo 13 thrilled audiences with its real-life drama in space, there was Marooned, 1969, a tense, intelligent, and hauntingly prophetic sci-fi thriller that dared to imagine what happens when astronauts are trapped in orbit with no way home. Directed by John Sturges, the legendary filmmaker behind The Great Escape and The Magnificent Seven, Marooned wasn't just another space movie. It was a chilling look at isolation, human endurance, and the terrifying fragility of life beyond Earth's atmosphere. The story follows 3 American astronauts, played by Richard Crenna, Gene Hackman, and James Franciscus, who are stranded in their spacecraft after a catastrophic engine failure leaves them drifting above Earth. With only hours of oxygen left, ground control, led by Gregory Peck, races against time to mount a daring rescue. What makes Marooned truly incredible is how eerily it foreshadowed real NASA crises. Just a year later, in 1970, the Apollo 13 mission would suffer a strikingly similar oxygen emergency, and the film suddenly looked like a terrifying prophecy. The production itself was remarkably realistic for its time. NASA even assisted the filmmakers to ensure every detail, from cockpit design to communication sequences, felt authentic. The result? A visually stunning film that earned Marooned an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects in 1970. But beyond its technical brilliance, Marooned captures something deeply human, the silent terror of being alone in space, knowing Earth is so close, yet impossibly far away. Though it didn't make massive box office waves upon release, Marooned has aged like fine wine, respected today as a hidden gem of 1960s hard sci-fi, and a spiritual ancestor to modern classics like Gravity and The Martian. If you've never seen it, Marooned is a slow-burn masterpiece, a gripping survival story where the real battle isn't just against time, but against hopelessness itself. Which 1960s sci-fi classic still gives you chills today? Tell us in the comments, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more deep dives into hidden retro gems and timeless cinematic legends. 3. The Day the Earth Caught Fire, 1961. In the summer of 1961, movie audiences around the world were hit with one of the most haunting what-if scenarios in science fiction history: The Day the Earth Caught Fire. At first glance, it looked like a simple British newspaper drama. But beneath the headlines, it was a slow-burning nightmare, a world literally tilting toward destruction after simultaneous US and Soviet nuclear tests knocked the planet off its axis. The story follows a weary journalist, played by Edward Judd, and a secretary, Janet Monroe, as they uncover the horrifying truth: humanity's race for power has pushed Earth closer to the sun, and the clock is ticking. What makes The Day the Earth Caught Fire so timeless isn't just its bold concept, it's the realism. Filmed in gritty black and white with orange-tinted apocalypse sequences, the movie felt terrifyingly plausible, even prophetic. Decades before global warming became a worldwide concern, this film was already warning about mankind's reckless impact on nature. And then there's the ending, one of the most debated in sci-fi history. As London swelters in 100-degree heat, newspaper presses roll out two front pages. One proclaiming "World Saved," the other "World Doomed." We never find out which headline goes to print. And that's the genius of it, leaving audiences suspended between hope and despair, a chilling mirror to our own uncertain world. The Day the Earth Caught Fire remains an unforgettable sci-fi masterpiece, not because of special effects, but because it dared to ask, what if humanity's greatest threat was humanity itself? 4. Fantastic Voyage, 1966. In 1966, audiences were taken on one of the most imaginative science fiction journeys ever filmed, Fantastic Voyage. Directed by Richard Fleischer and starring Stephen Boyd, Raquel Welch, and Donald Pleasance, this movie didn't just explore outer space. It dove deep inside the human body itself. The story follows a team of scientists who are miniaturized, along with their submarine, to microscopic size. Their mission? To travel through the bloodstream of a comatose scientist and perform life-saving brain surgery from within his body. What unfolds is a thrilling, visually stunning adventure through the arteries, heart, lungs, and brain. A voyage that feels just as bold today as it did nearly 6 decades ago. What made Fantastic Voyage so groundbreaking wasn't just its high-concept idea, it was the way it combined real-world science with pure imagination. The film's special effects, all created before the digital era, used practical techniques that left audiences breathless. Every frame, from the pulsating bloodstream to the swirling inner organs, was a cinematic marvel. And let's not forget Raquel Welch, whose performance and presence turned her into a global sensation. She brought charisma and strength to a genre often dominated by male leads, making the film even more iconic. Beyond the spectacle, Fantastic Voyage captured a deeper message: that the human body, like outer space, is a vast frontier of mystery and wonder. It reminded audiences that science fiction isn't only about alien planets and futuristic machines. Sometimes, the most incredible worlds are the ones already within us. Even today, Fantastic Voyage continues to inspire, influencing everything from inner space in the 1980s to Ant-Man in modern Marvel films. It remains a dazzling example of 1960s sci-fi ambition, creativity, and sheer visual artistry. A film that truly earns its title as one of the greatest sci-fi movies of its era. 5. Planet of the Vampires, 1965. The chilling space gothic that inspired Alien. In 1965, long before Ridley Scott's Alien terrified audiences, Italian filmmaker Mario Bava took us on a nightmarish journey through the stars with Planet of the Vampires, a film that blended science fiction and gothic horror in a way no one had ever seen before. The story follows two spacecrafts responding to a mysterious distress signal from an uncharted planet, a familiar setup today, but revolutionary back then. When the crew lands, they're met with a bleak, fog-drenched world cloaked in darkness, and something begins to possess them one by one. As the astronauts turn on each other, it's clear the real threat isn't outside the ship. It's inside their minds. What makes Planet of the Vampires so unforgettable isn't just its eerie tension, but its jaw-dropping visual style. With minimal budgets and practical effects, Bava used colored lights, smoke, and clever cinematography to create an atmosphere that feels alien even today. Those surreal red skies, black leather spacesuits, and skeletal alien remains would go on to directly influence classics like Alien, 1979, and Prometheus, 2012. Despite being made on a shoestring, the film proved that imagination can outshine money, a lesson many modern filmmakers still learn the hard way. Over half a century later, Planet of the Vampires remains one of the most visually haunting sci-fi experiences ever filmed, a forgotten gem that redefined cosmic horror and proved that in space, sometimes the monsters are us. 6. Alphaville, 1965. The cold, beautiful future that frightened the 60s. Long before computers ruled our lives or artificial intelligence became a household term, Jean-Luc Godard imagined a chilling world where emotion was forbidden, poetry was outlawed, and logic was law. That world was Alphaville, 1965, a haunting fusion of film noir and dystopian sci-fi that looked like a detective story but spoke like a prophecy. Set in a futuristic city controlled by a cold, calculating supercomputer called Alpha 60, the film follows secret agent Lemmy Caution, sent to destroy the machine that governs human thought and emotion. But Alphaville wasn't filmed on futuristic sets. Instead, Godard used real modern Paris, transforming its neon lights and glass towers into a soulless city of the future. The result was eerie realism, a future that felt terrifyingly close. At its heart, Alphaville isn't about robots or spaceships. It's about the battle between logic and love, between the mechanical and the human. As Caution falls in love with Natasha von Braun, the daughter of Alphaville's creator, he teaches her something outlawed in her world, the power of emotion, poetry, and freedom of thought. With its haunting narration, surreal visuals, and philosophical depth, Alphaville predicted a future where humanity might lose its soul to its own technology, a message that feels even more relevant today in our AI-driven world. Critics hailed it as one of the boldest sci-fi experiments of the decade, blending espionage, romance, and existential dread into a hypnotic cinematic experience. Even today, its minimalist vision of the future feels ahead of its time, and its questions about free will and emotion still echo through modern sci-fi classics like Blade Runner and Her. So if you think 1960s sci-fi was all rockets and monsters, Alphaville will surprise you. It's a black and white dream of the future, where the greatest rebellion isn't violence, it's feeling. 7. Fahrenheit 451, 1966. The fire that tried to burn knowledge. Imagine a world where reading is a crime, where books aren't treasures, but weapons of rebellion. That's the chilling future envisioned in Fahrenheit 451, François Truffaut's 1966 adaptation of Ray Bradbury's classic novel. Set in a sterile, conformist society, the story follows Guy Montag, a fireman whose job isn't to put out fires, but to burn books. Every page, every idea, every spark of independent thought is considered dangerous. But when Montag meets a free-spirited woman named Clarice, something inside him awakens. He begins to question everything: his duty, his world, and the blind obedience demanded by the system. Truffaut, known for his poetic realism, brings Bradbury's dystopia to life with haunting calmness. The film's muted color palette and eerie silence amplify the emotional isolation of a society addicted to screens and censorship, decades before those ideas became eerily relevant today. What makes Fahrenheit 451 still incredible today isn't just its futuristic vision, it's how prophetic it feels. The fear of free thought, the control of information, and the power of literature, these are themes that resonate even more in our digital age. Starring Oscar Werner as Montag and Julie Christie in a dual role, the film's minimalist yet emotional storytelling remains a powerful warning. When knowledge burns, so does humanity. Even now, nearly 60 years later, Fahrenheit 451 feels less like old science fiction and more like a mirror reflecting our modern world. 8. 2001, A Space Odyssey, 1968. When Stanley Kubrick released 2001, A Space Odyssey, audiences didn't just watch a movie, they experienced a cosmic event that forever redefined what science fiction could be. Long before CGI or digital effects, Kubrick took viewers on a journey through time, space, and human evolution itself, from the dawn of man to the infinite mysteries of the universe. The film's opening sequence, where primitive apes discover a mysterious black monolith, symbolizes the moment humanity takes its first step toward intelligence, and perhaps toward something even greater. Then, in one breathtaking cut, we're launched millions of years into the future, a spacecraft gliding silently to the tune of The Blue Danube. It wasn't just cinema, it was visual poetry. But beneath the hypnotic visuals lies one of the most chilling AI stories ever told. The HAL 9000, calm, intelligent, and terrifyingly logical, becomes the face of machine consciousness gone wrong. "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." That one line sent shivers through generations and remains a haunting warning about the dangers of human reliance on technology. Kubrick and science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke didn't just create a movie, they created a philosophical masterpiece. Every frame feels like a question about existence. Who are we? Where did we come from? And where are we going? Released in 1968, years before humans landed on the moon, 2001 predicted touchscreens, space stations, and artificial intelligence. Its groundbreaking visuals earned it an Academy Award, but its true legacy is how it shaped the DNA of every sci-fi epic that followed, from Star Wars to Interstellar. Even today, more than 50 years later, it still feels like a film from the future. 9. Robinson Crusoe on Mars, 1964. Before The Martian made survival on the Red Planet a blockbuster event, there was Robinson Crusoe on Mars, a bold 1964 classic that dared to imagine life beyond Earth long before CGI or real NASA footage existed. Directed by Byron Haskin, the visionary behind The War of the Worlds, 1953, this film blends isolation, ingenuity, and imagination in a way that still resonates today. The story follows Commander Kit Draper, an astronaut stranded on Mars after a disastrous crash landing. With only a monkey named Mona for company, Draper must learn to survive using limited oxygen, scarce food, and his wits, all while facing the planet's harsh, otherworldly terrain. What makes Robinson Crusoe on Mars so fascinating is its grounded realism and quiet human struggle. Long before high-tech sci-fi, it treated space as a place of solitude, not spectacle. The visuals, shot in Death Valley, brilliantly captured Mars's desolate beauty, while the film's practical effects and muted tone give it a haunting authenticity that modern audiences still appreciate. Behind the adventure lies a deep, almost spiritual reflection on human endurance and adaptability. It's less about aliens and more about survival, loneliness, and the will to live, timeless themes that connect across generations. When Draper eventually encounters an escaped alien slave, the film evolves into a subtle commentary on freedom, empathy, and coexistence, decades ahead of its time. Even after 60 years, Robinson Crusoe on Mars remains an underrated gem, a thoughtful, atmospheric film that captures the pure essence of 1960s sci-fi, exploration, imagination, and human resilience. Whether you're a sci-fi purist or just discovering the classics, this one proves you don't need big budgets to tell big stories. Only courage, creativity, and a lonely astronaut on a red planet. 10. The Time Machine, 1960. In the golden dawn of 1960s science fiction, The Time Machine wasn't just another adventure. It was a bold journey through imagination and morality. Directed by the legendary George Pal and inspired by H.G. Wells' timeless novel, this film asked one of the oldest and most haunting questions. What if mankind could escape time itself? The story follows George, a Victorian inventor portrayed by Rod Taylor, who believes the future holds the key to progress. With brass gears, polished glass, and a velvet seat fit for a dreamer, he constructs a magnificent time machine, a symbol of both human genius and hubris. As George travels centuries into the future, he witnesses the rise and fall of civilization, from atomic wars to the quiet decay of human ambition. Eventually, he lands in the year 800-2701, where humanity has split into two strange races, the gentle Eloi, living in ignorance above ground, and the sinister Morlocks, dwelling in darkness below. This shocking vision forces George to confront what humanity could become if it loses compassion and curiosity, a haunting message that still resonates today. Visually, The Time Machine was a triumph of its era, combining innovative special effects, stunning set design, and a haunting score that made audiences feel every tick of time's relentless march. It won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, cementing its place as one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made. But beyond the spectacle, it's the film's emotional core that endures, the belief that even in the darkest future, hope and courage can rewrite destiny. More than 6 decades later, The Time Machine still reminds us of the price of progress, the fragility of civilization, and the timeless human desire to seek and to understand what lies ahead. 11. The Damned, 1963. In 1963, Hammer Films, the studio famous for gothic horror, released something far darker, stranger, and eerily prophetic, The Damned. The movie begins like a rebellious biker drama, full of tension, youth violence, and British seaside grit. But halfway through, it transforms into something else entirely, a chilling science fiction nightmare about humanity's future. The story follows an American tourist, Simon Wells, who stumbles into a small English coastal town dominated by a violent gang led by King, played by a young Oliver Reed. But beneath this tough guy facade lies a shocking secret hidden deep inside a military bunker. There, locked away from the world, are a group of emotionless children, cold to the touch and kept under constant watch by scientists. As Simon and a young woman named Joan uncover the truth, they realize these children are radioactive and have been engineered to survive a nuclear apocalypse. What began as a story about rebellion turns into a haunting reflection on the Cold War, the fear that mankind's obsession with power would one day destroy the very future it was trying to protect. Director Joseph Losey, blacklisted in America during the McCarthy era, infused the film with a deep political message. Beneath its thriller exterior lies a warning about secrecy, militarization, and the price of survival in a nuclear age. Cinematically, The Damned stands out for its bold visuals, moody seaside atmosphere, and haunting score by James Bernard. It's one of those rare 1960s sci-fi films that feels shockingly modern, questioning not just technology, but morality itself. Though misunderstood upon release, The Damned has since become a cult classic, celebrated by film historians for its fearless storytelling and psychological depth. It's a movie that dared to ask, if humanity must destroy itself to survive, is that survival even worth it? Even today, its message still echoes, more relevant than ever in an age of genetic engineering, climate anxiety, and artificial intelligence. 12. Seconds, 1966. The Price of a Second Chance. Imagine being so desperate to escape your life that you'd fake your death and become someone entirely new. That's the haunting premise behind Seconds, 1966, one of the most underrated science fiction masterpieces of its time. Directed by John Frankenheimer, the visionary behind The Manchurian Candidate, this eerie psychological sci-fi thriller dives deep into the terrifying cost of chasing perfection. The story follows Arthur Hamilton, a middle-aged banker whose dull, loveless existence drives him to a secret organization that offers a chilling deal. They'll fake his death, give him a new identity, and surgically transform him into a handsome, younger man, played by the great Rock Hudson. At first, it seems like the ultimate fantasy come true, a fresh start, a new body, and a new life. But soon, Arthur realizes that freedom comes at a horrifying price. What makes Seconds still incredible today isn't just its science fiction concept, it's the way it explores the human condition. Beneath its futuristic surgery and shadowy conspiracies, it asks timeless questions. Can we ever truly escape who we are? And if we could start over, would we actually be happier? Cinematographer James Wong Howe's distorted, wide-angle shots and unsettling black-and-white visuals make the film feel like a waking nightmare, a perfect reflection of mid-century paranoia and existential dread. Though it flopped at release, Seconds has since become a cult classic, influencing later films like Face Off, The Island, and even Black Mirror. This 1966 gem remains a chilling reminder that no matter how advanced science becomes, our deepest fears and regrets can't be surgically removed. 12. 13. Night of the Living Dead, 1968. The film that changed horror forever. When George A. Romero released Night of the Living Dead in 1968, no one expected it to redefine cinema history. Shot on a shoestring budget in black and white, this film didn't just terrify audiences, it revolutionized what horror and sci-fi could be. The story begins quietly, with a brother and sister visiting a graveyard. Within minutes, chaos erupts, the dead are walking and they're hungry. A group of strangers barricades themselves inside a farmhouse, desperately trying to survive the unthinkable. What unfolds isn't just a battle against zombies, it's a chilling reflection of society itself. Romero's genius wasn't in elaborate special effects, but in his bold storytelling. At the height of the civil rights era, he cast Dwayne Jones, a black actor, as the intelligent and courageous lead, a groundbreaking choice for 1960s Hollywood. The film's shocking ending left audiences stunned, its social commentary cutting deeper than most sci-fi or horror films of its time. Night of the Living Dead didn't rely on expensive visuals, it relied on fear, tension, and realism. The grainy black and white style only added to its unsettling atmosphere. Despite being banned or restricted in several countries for its violence, the film became a cult phenomenon, influencing generations of filmmakers from John Carpenter to Jordan Peele. Even today, it feels disturbingly real, a stark reminder of how fragile civilization can be when fear takes over. More than 5 decades later, Night of the Living Dead remains a masterpiece of sci-fi horror, a timeless example of how independent cinema can change the world. Fun fact, the word zombie is never actually spoken in the movie. Yet Romero's undead creatures went on to inspire every zombie story that followed, from The Walking Dead to World War Z. 14. Planet of the Apes, 1968. The sci-fi masterpiece that rewrote cinema history. When Planet of the Apes hit theaters in 1968, audiences didn't just walk into a science fiction movie, they walked into a mind-bending new world that flipped humanity on its head. Directed by Franklin J. Schaffner and based on Pierre Boulle's novel, this film redefined what sci-fi could be: smart, socially charged, and unforgettable. The story follows astronaut George Taylor, played by the rugged and cynical Charlton Heston, who crash lands on a mysterious planet far in the future. What begins as a survival tale quickly morphs into a nightmare, as Taylor discovers a society where intelligent apes rule and humans are primitive, voiceless captives. What made Planet of the Apes groundbreaking wasn't just its concept, it was its unflinching look at evolution, power, and prejudice, cleverly wrapped in science fiction. The ape civilization mirrored our own society, forcing viewers to question what it truly means to be civilized. The film's practical makeup effects were revolutionary for their time, so detailed and expressive that they earned an honorary Academy Award and influenced generations of special effects artists. And then came that iconic twist ending. Taylor stumbling upon the ruins of the Statue of Liberty, realizing he had been on Earth all along. It's one of cinema's most jaw-dropping revelations, and it still gives viewers chills over 50 years later. Beyond its shock value, Planet of the Apes became a franchise phenomenon, spawning sequels, reboots, comic books, and even philosophical debates in classrooms. It didn't just entertain, it challenged minds. Even today, Planet of the Apes stands tall as a masterpiece of 1960s science fiction, proving that great storytelling and bold ideas never age. Its legacy echoes in every sci-fi film that dares to ask deep questions about humanity's future and our own primal past. What did you think of that legendary twist ending? Let us know in the comments. If you love classic sci-fi cinema, make sure to subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more incredible stories from the golden age of science fiction. 15. First Men in the Moon, 1964. The Victorian Journey Beyond Imagination. Back in 1964, long before Neil Armstrong ever set foot on the moon, First Men in the Moon imagined humanity's lunar adventure with breathtaking creativity and pure cinematic wonder. Based on H.G. Wells' classic novel, this British sci-fi gem blended witty storytelling, adventure, and pioneering special effects that still feel magical today. The story begins in the late 19th century, where an eccentric inventor named Professor Caver, played by Lionel Jeffries, develops an anti-gravity substance called Caverit. With the help of a curious playwright, Bedford Edward Judd, and the brave Kate Martha Heyer, he constructs a spherical spacecraft, decades before the world ever dreamed of Apollo missions. Together, they embark on a daring voyage to the moon, expecting desolation, but what they discover is far stranger. Beneath the moon's surface lies an ancient civilization, the Selenites, insect-like creatures living in vast underground cities. This imaginative depiction of alien life, designed by the legendary special effects master Ray Harryhausen, remains one of the movie's most unforgettable elements. His stop-motion magic brought the moon's eerie landscapes and its bizarre inhabitants to life with charm and precision that CGI still struggles to match in spirit. Unlike many sci-fi films of its time, First Men in the Moon carries a mix of humor, humanity, and foresight. It's both a thrilling adventure and a commentary on human ambition, a story that predicts our desire to explore, colonize, and sometimes destroy what we don't understand. Even today, this 1960s classic stands tall among modern space films. It's imaginative, beautifully crafted, and full of wonder, proof that great storytelling and visionary artistry never age. Why it's still incredible today? Because First Men in the Moon captures that rare sense of discovery, the feeling that space is not just science, but mystery and magic. It's the kind of film that reminds us why we fell in love with sci-fi in the first place. 16. The Last Man on Earth, 1964. A chilling masterpiece that defined post-apocalyptic sci-fi forever. In the eerie silence of a world emptied by plague, one man walks alone. Dr. Robert Morgan, played by the legendary Vincent Price, is the last survivor of a mysterious disease that wiped out humanity, or so he believes. By day, he scavenges for food and supplies in the ruins of civilization. By night, he barricades himself inside his home as shadowy, vampiric creatures scratch and whisper at his door. But what truly makes The Last Man on Earth unforgettable isn't just its haunting imagery, it's the existential horror behind it. Based on Richard Matheson's novel I Am Legend, this 1964 classic explores what happens when the boundaries between man and monster blur. Morgan believes he's humanity's savior. Yet, as the shocking ending reveals, he might just be the monster in their new world. Filmed in stark black and white in post-war Italy, the movie captures a decaying world that feels both alien and painfully real. Its abandoned streets, lifeless cities, and grim atmosphere influenced later blockbusters like Night of the Living Dead, 1968, and 28 Days Later, 2002. Despite its modest budget, The Last Man on Earth remains a cinematic pioneer, the first real adaptation of I Am Legend that dared to mix science fiction, horror, and tragedy into one haunting vision. Vincent Price delivers one of his most human performances, transforming loneliness into terror and despair into quiet strength. Even today, over half a century later, its themes feel eerily timely: isolation, survival, and the question of what it truly means to be human in a world gone dark. So if you've never seen it, this isn't just vintage sci-fi. It's the blueprint for every post-apocalyptic story that came after. Still incredible. Still chilling. Still relevant. The Last Man on Earth, 1964, a masterpiece that proves sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones left behind. And there you have it, 16 of the greatest sci-fi masterpieces from the 1960s that continue to inspire generations of filmmakers and fans even today. From time-traveling adventures to haunting visions of the future, these classics prove that imagination truly knows no limits. If you enjoyed this journey through retro science fiction, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with fellow movie lovers, and most importantly, subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more deep dives into the legends, secrets, and forgotten gems of Hollywood. Which of these 1960s sci-fi films blew your mind the most? Tell us in the comment box below. We'd love to hear your favorite. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your heart in the movies.